Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today's podcast, we're covering the Terror Tales of the Park series from Regular Show.
Now these episodes were annual Halloween specials of Regular Show that showcased the park crew telling 3 scary stories each time, resulting in freaky tales.
Yes. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, click notification abilities on future podcasts and Wilder Paw's videos.
Yes, I think some of them outdid The Simpsons.
Right. Now, originally this wasn't supposed to be an annual thing. They had started around season 3, where it was actually just a random episode where you thought something really creepy was happening, and it was just a scary story one of the characters was telling to the others in a regular episode. And then it delved into like 2 other episodes like thrown together that were really short. And you weren't sure if the events were real or not by the end, because then it would kind of get thrown away the next episode, so you kind of had to take it as face value. So then it became an annual thing where they would do the stories at Halloween and actually have it center around a Halloween party. At the end, they always say Happy Halloween at the end, so it became a thing to be terror tales, and every season they would have an episode where they tell 3 scary stories like a horror movie.
I think the first one is the standout one because it was the first, and 2 reminded me of horror movies in the way that it was done. And they started off like Regular Show normally does, regular, normal,
Right.
like nothing strange is gonna happen, and then zombies.
Right. So for this one, the 3 they had was one was actually split into 2 segments where they parodied Chucky. Pops had a creepy vintage doll in there that liked to draw on people's faces like Jigglypuff, and it was like, is that scary? Really? It's like, I guess it's creepy.
I guess for Pops it is.
Yeah, that's the scary part. Like, well, it's creepy. I don't know if it's like horror levels, but hey. Then they had another episode where it ended up being on its own, actually taking place during Halloween. And I thought Rigby was telling it, and it was when a wizard had cursed Rigby because he had egged his house, and he turned him into a house.
That one was, that was strange.
Right. And then that was the most closest to the horror part. And then the other one where Muscle Man and High Five were going to drive an old van that was abandoned by a band crew that died, and they're going to drive into the crash pit. And it's like, why are you wasting your time with this?
Well, which one was the one where they literally were in the park?
Oh,
they were gonna
okay.
watch movies.
Oh, okay. That was, I think it was a standalone one. It was one, it was, not Raise the Stakes, I'm thinking of that competition. Crap, what was the name of the episode?
That's what I was asking you, because I remember I can see it in the zombies.
Oh, Dead It, it was, not Dead It, that's where they had
if
actual
you know,
death.
let us know in the comments.
I was like, they had so many episodes with these themes in there, it's almost hard to like pinpoint them because they all were similar. But yes, you do remember the zombies came to life and they put in that horror movie. Yes.
That's the one that I remember the most.
Right.
And one I thought should have been a Terror Tales from the Park episode, but wasn't, was Hello, Governor.
Oh,
I
yes.
always thought that should have been one.
Yes, I agree, because it's one of the funniest and sort of scariest ones of the series. So with this, after they got to season 4, they started having this thing where at every Halloween party, or on their way to a Halloween party, they would tell scary stories and be under different circumstances. Like, one time they were just at the party and they said, oh, we'll hold a contest to see who can tell the scariest story. Another one, or they're on their way to a party, tell stories to pass the time and try not to scare Pops, which didn't work. Another one, we were just waiting for people to arrive and they told some stories. And it kind of ended up just being that was the format. Even up till the end of the series where they told scary stories in space, and like they had Christmas in space, and the whole thing was in space. So even the Terror Tales had to have a Halloween. The Terror Tales had to have a space theme in Halloween.
So I know this definitely had to be inspired by The Simpsons.
Yes.
And theirs were freaky and creepy as well.
Yes.
And I think the regular show, JG, elevated it because, again, it's normal. It's just normal. And some of them, as you said, like the ones with Pops and the doll drawing on the face is like...
Yeah, like
each
what?
story that was told by each character would reflect really their personality and what they would do, especially like Rigby's and Turning to the House, and the ones that you mentioned. And there are many others that anytime the story was told, it reflected their mindset, how they thought, how they felt, and then usually it was like, oh, you expect us to believe that? Oh, you can't do better than that.
Right.
And especially Benson's, because in his, you knew it had to be a story because normally he's blowing up, he's upset, he's angry.
Right.
But in his own stories, he didn't.
Right.
So you
He
knew
was
it
so
couldn't be
calm.
real.
Right. Heck, his own story is like, oh, I got a good story for you. And it starts off, Mordecai and Rigby are dead. It's like, wow, you didn't waste any time. They just start off gone. It was like, what the heck was that?
So that's what I like most about them. And Skips too. They
Yes.
all reflected whom they were as characters. It
Yes.
wasn't like it would be a story that was told and would be so different and so unlike them. Every story told by each character every time reflected how they were as a character.
Yes. It was pretty interesting how it kept changing every season. The core character was intact, but it was always a different story. And it was always a certain fear that they had or a certain thing they believed was scary. Pops thought the doll drawn on people was scary. Benson thought being haunted Mordecai and Rigby forever would be the scariest thing ever. Even Margaret ended up getting a story at some point when by phone we're on a party bus that never ends. It ended up actually being a real movie about a never-ending party bus. And it was all their fears brought into little stories of what they thought would be, if they're really going to just get back at somebody, the person they didn't like was always the first victim or they would be the villain.
So think about it. It's a regular show. Everything is normal and then things happen to the extreme. So even the Terror Tales from the park, as you said, as I said, it reflected each character, and as you said, it would be their fear.
Right.
So even the Terror Tales are normal.
Right.
If you think about it.
Right.
They're not even outlandish. It was their spin that they would put on it, and it was their attempt at telling the scary story around the campfire. But still, in all of it, they're still pretty freaking normal.
Right. And it's like stuff you could read in a little book and that's it. And another
maybe their Terror Tales are like The Simpsons. They're closer to Goosebumps.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
And that's pretty good because there's even a point in there where every time they have a different episode, they have different costumes on, either referencing something on Cartoon Network or a movie or just monsters and stuff. Because even a point when they got near the end of the series where they referenced Supernatural, they referenced Van Helsing, The Room, and other horror movies, and it actually was pretty interesting to see who watched what and what they were referencing based on the outfits they had on, the stories they would tell. The even ones that were parodying Twilight Zone and other famous films.
Pretty cool.
So with this was one of the things that became the staples of regular show. They have something annual. They would have a Halloween special, and then would usually have a Christmas special or a Christmas themed episode. But it looks like the Halloween one stood out more because they would have so many little events going on to elevate the scariness of it. And even though, they could get pretty scary even for regular show, there even were versions that they had to take out because there was one version where they all were sent to the bad place at the end of an episode, and now just be how it ended. They had to change it because it was pretty graphic for that network at the time, but they were trying to make sure it's like, we can get as scary as we can without it being gory or graphic or you can't be on here. So I think they did a pretty good job at doing it to where you can be convinced it's a scary story but still keep it grounded to regular show.
And then I think a group of the funniest were the ones or the set, I should say, or the trilogy that had Thomas in them.
Yes! Oh, yes! Because he would always have such a little role in there all the time, and it was like he told the worst stories.
Yes.
And it's like, man, do you have any imagination? And it's like, yeah, wait till later.
Really was.
Right? Right. And it's really great that they were inspired by it because it's still there. The fun, hilarious writing or being spooked is still there. So no matter how you feel, if seeing it funny or hilarious or scary, any other way you see it, it still fits for Halloween. Because there are so many of The Simpsons that it's almost hard to pick. Having 3 every season is probably really hard. But regular shows a little easier to narrow down because there are ones that remember the others. And I love that when they also reference the thing that they're making fun of, or they're saying spooky, or just The Simpsons itself. Because I told you, they always have this one favorite of The Simpsons. I remember nothing else. I remember, the only one I remember is when Homer bought a house and it was clear it was haunted. He didn't care. He bought it in because it was cheap. And Marge said, look, don't you see all around this house, it is haunted and they don't want us here. Kids, grab your, you can stay in this house if you want, but we're leaving. Kids, grab your coats, I'm going to find my keys and we're going to leave. And then the coats floated to the kids, the keys floated to Marge, and the door opened itself. And the ghost was like, yes, please leave.
So, I think this helped to make regular show not only memorable to all of us who loved it, but also to be a standout on Cartoon Network.
Yes.
Of course, there's nothing like regular show. And there's also nothing equally like Terror Tales of the Park, except for what it is you mentioned, and I mentioned, is inspired by The Simpsons. So if you guys remember watching Terror Tales of the Park in any season, which set was your favorite, or which one was your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. If you haven't seen them, I'm sorry, because the season's not available to buy. And if you can't find it online somewhere, clips or something, unfortunately, this is the part of Cartoon Network you won't get to see anymore.
Yeah.
It's one of those you had to be there. So, again, if you've seen them, let us know which was your favorite in the comments below.
Yes. And if the show ever returned, would you want to see them do this formula again?
Absolutely. I really hope that would happen, but I don't think we're going to get a return.
Unfortunately.
Right.
So, if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly videos on your favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.